I was asked for more musical explanation, so here it is. Invention is a lot like coming up with a dance move. You copy some part and you add your own style. And somewhere along the line you think about how good it is, and then you refine it. So we apply that to music harmony. But you say, that's hard, because everyone's thought of everything for 100 years already. Not if you look deeply at it. This Christmas song was written for a barbershop quartet, and it is in a minor key. At the very end, the last chord turns into major. It sounds something like this.
So tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Everyone I've heard sings it the same way, where only one note in the chord changes pitch. But is that proper? Several notes in the scale all change pitch, so that's a legitimate key change. One way to write the final chord is to just raise the mi, or the third of the chord. The A flat becomes an A natural. The other way to write the final chord is to add 3 accidentals to the key signature. In this case, the 4 flats of the key signature become 1 flat. This changes the key of 4 flats, F minor or A flat, to 1 flat, F major. This second way of thinking is a key change. I always hear key changes pitched as the piano, equally tempered. There's always an opportunity to pitch key changes better. Pianos don't have this flexibility. So maybe there's an opportunity to sing that move better by singing the final chord either higher or lower. So you try it, and you find that it sounds more pleasing if you drop the pitch slightly, a small fraction of a note. What does this pleasing pitch sound like? You can try it over the example track. You would have to ignore the dissonance of the rest of the singers, but just listen to which melody line sounds more beautiful, more musical. The musical effect of this key change should be shocking. The more beautiful tuning sounds very foreign to the rest of the song, with no common overtones, but yet at the same time sounds very right. A very precise note without much allowance for pitch variation. If you're the lead singer, everyone else will tune to your note, and it's all good. All the notes in the last chord move together, so it's still internally in tune. That's usually the rule of these key changes. So you assess what it's worth. Well, most people will think that you're singing out of tune. However, if you have the reputation for it, people will listen to it with an open mind and think it's pretty cool. The cool sound has to do with the motion of these overtones. While singing in the same key and microtuning very well, there's a lot of consonance of the overtones. The same high notes keep ringing in the background. But wait, can I hear overtones? If you've heard a cheering crowd or the roar of an ocean, you have. Think of the pitch of the sounds that make up each one. Mimic the sound of a typical cheer or the sound of a water drop. Then mimic the sound of the crowd or the ocean. Your voice went up, probably an octave or a fifth. The lower part of the sound drops out, so you're hearing the overtones. It is a complex sound, and with music, you can get a constant drone of high pitches. The potential for a signature move. But you're not close to done yet. For it to go viral, you need to make it so others can do it too. So let's make it easier for them. And to put your stamp on it, it's helpful to do the math and figure exactly how big the move is. There's a chart of musical math. Cool, huh? The important part is a cent, which is 1/100th the smallest note on a piano. So when we describe notes between notes on a piano, we say it's a number of cents higher or lower than the piano. So we want to find out how many cents we need to lower the last chord. So 100 cents is a half step. The piano is equally tempered. That is, each half step is the same size. This is a compromise that allows the piano to be played in any key. If we don't want to compromise, but if we want to sing the most proper notes, where do they come from? The math is some simple multiplication and divides by 2. You multiply times 2 to raise an octave, so you can divide by 2 to drop an octave. Check out the first and last entries of the table. The frequency ratio relative to middle C on the piano is 1:1 and 2:1. That is middle C and the octave above, high C. You multiply to simulate the overtone series. C times 1, C times 2, C times 3, C times 4, C times 5, and so on. Then you typically divide by 2 enough times to bring the pitch back into the octave range of the chart. A little musical magic coming. By a trained ear, we can hear it sounds like 1/2, 3/2, or 5/2 step key change. But we can also tell that it's not the recognizable 1/2 step key change. So what does the trained ear hear exactly? It hears a key change, but there are two general sounds here. A well-pitched half-step key change sounds shocking, with a complete change in overtones. That is, there are no common overtones when changing key by a half step. This is a very striking and musical effect that is lost when changing key by an equally tempered amount. But changing key by a well-pitched whole step has a lot of consonances with the overtones. This is also very musical and is lost when changing key by equally tempered amounts. But the effect is carried to every key change by an odd amount of half steps. The overtones have this striking change. And to every key change by an even amount of half steps, the overtones have a striking consonance. It sounds like 1/2, 3/2, or 5/2 because there is this change in overtones. And the amount of pitch change from the piano is small, so it is one of the first few key changes. It's not the recognizable 1/2 step key change. This is so common, there's some muscle memory to automatically make this well-pitched key change pretty accurately. Very similar to the muscle memory that we have to make equally tempered half-step key changes, which is all memory because there's no overtone reason for that interval. So the first one to look at is 3/2. From another invention, we found a pleasing half-step key change is not 100 cents, but it's really 102 cents. So 3 half-step key changes gives us 3 times 102 cents, or 306 cents. Okay, where does 102 cents come in? First, we can see that it's not on the interval chart, and I never heard it used in recordings, so it may be another invention. But it is the place where a well-tuned half-step should be, the place where we get the most shocking change of overtones, the place where none match. When singing off-key, also overtones don't match, but that is random how close. In the case of a well-tuned half-step, no overtones were close. It feels like a gap between overtones, a shocking change in overtones. The spot is about halfway to 204 cents, which is the Pythagorean major second. The Pythagorean major second is the well-tuned place to pitch 2 half-step key change. 2 halves is a fairly common whole step key change. This whole step tuning results in the most consonants between the overtones as you change keys. Okay, what else do we know that can help us with the math? Overtones naturally give us a major chord. So where does a minor chord come from? How do overtones naturally give us a major chord? You remember C times 1, C times 2, C times 3, C times 4, C times 5, and so on? Simulate the overtone series? And that doubling gives us an octave? That doubling means that C times 1, C times 2, and C times 4 are octaves of C. But what do C times 3 and C times 5 create? C times 3 creates the perfect fifth at 702. Note that the frequency ratio is 3:2, or C times 3 brought down an octave, so divided by 2. And similarly, C times 5 creates the just major third at 386. The frequency ratio is 5:4, or C times 5 brought down 2 octaves, or divided by 4. Those overtones create several roots, a third and a fifth. That's a major chord naturally emerging from the overtones of a single note. A minor scale is a major scale starting from a different note. The major scale in the diagram starts at C. and is all the white keys ending in C. Its relative minor scale, A minor, starts at A and is all the white keys ending in A. It is the major scale, but starting with the different note, A. So what note of the minor scale gives us the overtones? It's the note from the major scale, which falls on the third of the minor scale. That's where the minor scale is derived from. That's exactly 3 half-step key change down from the minor to the major. This confirms our notion of key change, and by how much. When you were in the major key, the single note Do gave you the major chord in its overtones. In this example, it was the C note. In the minor key, which single note similarly gives you the sound of the minor chord in its overtones? When you're in the key of A minor, which is all the white notes on the piano, the C note gives you 2 of the main notes of the minor chord in its overtones. The minor third, which is C, and the 5th, which is E. C and E were also in the major chord, the root, which was C, and the third, which was E. So by overtones, the key change from A minor to A is the same as the key change from C to A. How many half steps is that from C down to A? 3 halves, the same key change that we found to be likely by ear. Whew, done with the magic. Now we know enough to calculate exactly how much the minor chord moves. So we find the minor third on the chart to be 294. 294 minus 3 times 102 is minus 12 cents. This calculates the key change to be 3 well-tuned half steps downward at 102 cents each. So each key change drops an additional 2 cents down compared to the piano. The minor third on the chart starts at 294, which is already 6 cents lower than the piano. So net for this move is 12 cents lower than the piano. Beware, this is how much for this particular move. Each move tends to bring you further away from the piano. The constant part is the overtones should always make musical sense from the original pitch of the song. But wait, 294 on the chart was a Pythagorean minor third, but some singers use the just minor third at 316. 316 minus 3 times 102 is plus 10 cents. Minus 12 or plus 10, we'd like to simplify our invention further. It's fussy to have to decide between 2 choices at the speed of singing. Why do some singers sing a Pythagorean minor third and others sing a just minor third? Each one sounds pleasing in its own way and simplest to understand from the major scales. The just major third comes naturally from the overtone series. That is the C times 5 overtone, or the 5/4 frequency ratio. And the minor third is the distance from the major third to the 5th, E to G, but is also the same distance from A to C. The Pythagorean third comes from the circle of fifths. You may have heard the chord progression: C, E minor, A minor, D minor, G, C, or possibly C, E 7th, A 7th, D 7th, G 7th, C. Try them both. The progression starts with a leap and then progressively unwinds as you go around the circle of fifths. The common notes as you unwind makes you go progressively flat compared to the piano. That means your initial leap from C to E must be extra sharp. How sharp? That is the Pythagorean third. And the Pythagorean minor third is the distance between the Pythagorean major third and the 5th. It is also a pleasing note to sing in a chord with a slightly different sound. Great choruses sing both, and they can be chosen for various musical effects, not commonly described why, but commonly sung among top groups, and is on the chart, so it's not an invention. It is usually requested by chorus directors to sing this third high. Since the pitch is relative to the minor third in either case, that simplifies things. To do this, the bass should always sing 306 down from where the minor third was when the song ends on a major chord. The complication is the key change is based on the key sounds of the overtones, which is based on the minor third. If you're calculating the root move from A and A minor to A and A major, it can move up or down depending on which minor third is being sung by the chorus. It is simpler to calculate the note as a direct key change move from the minor third. So the invention is done. 1. We reasoned a possible invention. 2. We experimented and it worked. 3. We assessed its value. 4. We refined to make it better. A complete invention. I know that each of these explanations is a rabbit hole, with further questions and applications. The original video gave you the process and the pacing of the invention process, and this one gives you additional explanation to help you follow the musical part of the journey. Hope you enjoyed it.